He was dead. That's what the barrel of the suppressed HKVP-9 pointed at his chest said. Adrian Cross, the most feared man on the eastern seaboard, was cornered like a rat in the back booth of the Gilded Lily. His bodyguards were already on the floor, bleeding out into the expensive Persian rugs. The assassin grinned, his finger tightening on the trigger. The entire room was silent, paralyzed by pure terror. No one moved. No one dared to breathe. Except for her. The quiet girl in the stained apron refilling water glasses in the corner. In one split second, the silver tray hit the floor with a crash. In the next, 3 shots rang out, but they didn't come from the assassin. They came from the waitress, who had just snatched the gun off the table faster than the devil himself. The rain in Seattle didn't wash things clean. It just made the grime slicker. That's how Liam felt every time she walked into the Gilded Lily. It was an upscale Italian joint on 4th Avenue, the kind of place where a plate of pasta cost more than her rent, and the men wore suits that cost more than her life. Liam didn't belong here. She knew it, and the maitre d', a snooty little man named Philip, reminded her of it every shift. Table 4 needs water, Liam, and tuck in your shirt. You look like you just rolled out of a dumpster, Philip hissed, snapping his fingers near her face. On it, Philip, Liam said, her voice flat. She adjusted her apron, hiding the tremor in her hands. She wasn't shaking from fear of Philip. She was shaking because she needed the money, and she was terrified this job wouldn't last. It was her 3rd job in 6 months. When you're trying to disappear, staying in one place too long is a death sentence. But the tips at the Lily were cash, and no one asked for her ID. Tonight, the vibe in the restaurant was different, heavy. The air felt charged, like the moments before a thunderstorm breaks. It started when the black SUVs pulled up outside, 3 of them, armored Cadillac Escalades with tinted windows darker than a midnight sky. The door swung open, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Adrian Cross walked in. Liam froze near the service station. She'd seen rich men before, tech billionaires, real estate tycoons, politicians. But Adrian Cross was different. He didn't walk like a man who owned money. He walked like a man who owned the city. He was tall, with broad shoulders that strained against a charcoal bespoke suit. His hair was dark, swept back, and his eyes were the color of steel, cold, calculating, and utterly void of warmth. He was flanked by 4 men. 2 were clearly muscle, necks as thick as tree trunks, scanning the room with paranoid intensity. The other 2 were older, advisors maybe. Mr. Cross, Philip practically melted into a puddle of obsequiousness. Your usual table is ready. The private alcove. Adrian didn't look at him. He just nodded, his gaze sweeping the room, dissecting every face, every exit. For a brief second, his eyes landed on Liam. She felt a jolt of electricity run down her spine, a primal warning. Then he looked away, dismissing her as part of the furniture. Waitress, one of the bodyguards grunted as they sat down. Water, now. Liam grabbed the pitcher. Yes, sir. As she approached the table, she kept her head down, employing the technique she'd perfected over the last 3 years. Be invisible. Be nothing. She poured the water with a steady hand. The men were talking in hushed tones, but Liam's hearing was sharp. Shipment from the docks was light, Adrian. Someone skimming, one of the older men whispered. I know. Adrian's voice was a low rumble, smooth like aged whiskey, but with a dangerous edge. We'll find them. And when we do, I want them to serve as an example. Liam placed a glass down, and her wrist accidentally brushed against Adrian's sleeve. He flinched, his hand shooting out to grab her wrist. His grip was like iron. Liam gasped, nearly dropping the pitcher. The bodyguards half rose from their seats, hands moving to their jackets. Adrian looked up at her, his eyes narrowing. He stared at her hand, specifically at the calluses on her palm and the faint, jagged scar running down her index finger. It wasn't the hand of a waitress. It was the hand of someone who had worked, fought, or survived something terrible. "Sorry," Liam whispered, heart hammering against her ribs. "I didn't mean to—" Adrian held her gaze for a long, uncomfortable second. Then he released her. "Watch yourself." "Yes, sir." She retreated to the kitchen, her breath coming in short gasps. "Stupid, stupid," she muttered to herself. She needed to be invisible, and she'd just made the most dangerous man in the room touch her. She didn't know then that being noticed by Adrian Cross was about to be the least of her problems. An hour passed. The restaurant filled up. The clinking of silverware and the hum of conversation usually soothed Liam, but tonight, the knot in her stomach wouldn't loosen. She was near the bar, counting her tips, when the front door opened again. This time there were no SUVs, no fanfare. Just 4 men in long trench coats walking in, shaking off the rain. They didn't wait to be seated. They didn't look at Philip. Liam frowned. They moved in a formation she recognized. A diamond wedge, military or mercenary. Her eyes drifted to their coats. They were unbuttoned at the bottom, allowing for easy access to the waist, and they were walking straight toward the private alcove. Adrian. Liam looked towards the alcove. Adrian was laughing at something one of his men said. A rare moment of guard lowering. His bodyguards were distracted, one checking his phone, the other signaling for the check. The 4 men in coats sped up. Time seemed to slow down for Liam. It was a sensation she remembered from before. The world turned into syrup. Sounds became muffled. Details became hyper-sharp. She saw the lead man reach into his coat. She saw the glint of matte black metal. A suppressor. "Gun!" Liam screamed, the word ripping out of her throat before she could stop it. The scream shattered the restaurant's ambiance. Adrian's head snapped up. His bodyguards reacted, but they were too slow. They were fat on complacency. Thwip thwip. 2 soft coughs from the suppressed pistols. The bodyguard on the left dropped, a hole in his forehead. The one on the right took a round to the throat, gurgling as he fell across the table, scattering wine glasses. Chaos erupted. Screams. People diving under tables. The other 2 men at Adrian's table scrambled back, but the assassins were professional. They fanned out, creating a kill box. Adrian flipped the heavy oak table, using it as a shield. He was moving fast, reaching for a weapon that wasn't there. He had checked his coat at the door. He was unarmed. Trapped. The lead assassin, a man with a scar running through his eyebrow, stepped over the dead bodyguard. He kicked the table, forcing Adrian back against the wall. There was nowhere to go. Adrian Cross, the King of Seattle, looked the assassin in the eye. He didn't beg. He just glared. "It's over, Cross," the assassin sneered, raising his weapon. "The Volkovs send their regards." Liam was crouching behind the service station, 10 feet away. Her brain screamed at her to run. Run, Liam, out the back door, into the alley. Disappear again. But her body betrayed her. She saw the gun on the floor. It had slid out of the dead bodyguard's jacket. A Glock 19. It was 5 feet away. The assassin's finger tightened on the trigger. Liam didn't think. Instinct took the wheel. The muscle memory drilled into her by a father she tried to forget. She lunged. She slid across the polished floor on her knees, the friction burning through her jeans. Her hand slapped onto the grip of the Glock. It felt cold, heavy, and familiar. "Hey!" she shouted. The assassin turned his head, just a fraction. Liam didn't hesitate. She didn't close her eyes. She raised the weapon, gripped it with 2 hands, and exhaled. Bang, bang, bang. 3 shots, deafening in the enclosed space. The first shot hit the assassin in the shoulder, spinning him around. The second hit him in the chest. The third took him in the neck. He dropped like a stone. The other 3 assassins spun toward her, shock painted on their faces. They hadn't expected the waitress to be a player. "Get down!" Liam screamed at Adrian. Adrian dropped flat just as bullets chewed up the wall where his head had been. Liam rolled behind the bar, glass shattering above her as the assassins opened fire. "Who the hell is this girl?" one of them yelled. "Kill her! Kill them both!" Liam checked the magazine. 12 rounds left. She looked across the room. Adrian was pinned behind the overturned table, looking at her with an expression of absolute bewilderment. "Throw me a piece," Adrian roared at her. "I'm a little busy," Liam yelled back, popping up to fire 2 suppression shots, forcing the assassins to duck behind a pillar. "The kitchen!" she shouted. "Go to the kitchen! I'm not leaving without you!" Adrian yelled. "Why? You want to die here?" One of the assassins flanked left. Liam saw the movement in the reflection of the espresso machine. She spun, firing blindly around the corner. A cry of pain told her she'd connected. "Move, Cross!" she commanded. It was the voice of a soldier, not a servant. Adrian didn't argue. He sprinted for the kitchen doors. Liam provided cover fire, walking the trigger, keeping the remaining 2 gunmen pinned. As soon as Adrian burst through the swinging doors, Liam ejected the magazine, checked the chamber, 1 left, slammed the mag back in, and ran after him. She burst into the kitchen. Cooks and dishwashers were cowering in the corners. Adrian was grabbing a bundle of knives from the magnet strip on the wall. "Back door!" Liam panted, her adrenaline peaking. "Alley leads to 5th. Less traffic." Adrian looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time. He saw the way she held the gun. Finger off the trigger until ready, shoulders squared, eyes scanning the exits. "Who are you?" he asked, breathless. "The girl who just saved your ass," Liam snapped. "Now move!" They kicked open the back door and spilled out into the rainy alleyway. The cold air hit them like a slap. "My car is out front," Adrian said, "armored." "They'll have the front covered," Liam said, grabbing his arm and pulling him towards the dumpsters. "We need to vanish, now." "Vanish? I don't run, sweetheart. I fight." "You have a knife. They have semi-automatics. Do the math, Einstein." Suddenly the kitchen door behind them flew open. The remaining 2 assassins burst out. "There!" Liam raised the gun, but the slide clicked back. Jam. Damn it! She racked the slide, clearing the stovepipe jam with a fluid motion that made Adrian's eyes widen. She fired twice, forcing the men back inside the doorway. "Go, now!" They sprinted down the alley, splashing through puddles, the sounds of sirens wailing in the distance. Liam led him through a maze of back streets she knew by heart, routes she had memorized for exactly this kind of worst-case scenario. They didn't stop until they were 4 blocks away, huddled in the shadow of a condemned parking garage. Both of them were soaked to the bone, chests heaving. Adrian leaned against the brick wall, wiping rain and blood from his face. He looked at Liam. She was checking the gun again, her face a mask of intense concentration. "You cleared a Type 2 malfunction in under a second," Adrian said, his voice low. "Waitresses don't do that." Liam looked up at him. The adrenaline was fading, replaced by the cold dread of reality. She had just shot 3 men. She had just saved a mafia boss. Her cover wasn't just blown, it was incinerated. "I'm not just a waitress," she whispered. "Clearly." Adrian stepped closer, invading her personal space. He smelled of expensive cologne, gunpowder, and rain. The danger radiating off him was palpable, but so was the gratitude. "You saved my life. I owe you." "You don't owe me anything," Liam said, shoving the gun into the back of her waistband. "I just didn't want to get shot." "You took out 3 trained hitmen to avoid getting shot?" Adrian smirked. "A dangerous, crooked thing. I think there's more to it than that." He reached out, his hand brushing a wet lock of hair from her face. "What's your name?" Liam hesitated. Telling him was dangerous, but lying to a man like Adrian Cross was probably worse. "Liam," she said. "Well, Liam," Adrian said, looking around as a black sedan turned the corner down the street, its headlights sweeping over them. "You're in the game now, whether you like it or not." Liam watched the car approach. "Is that yours?" "No," Adrian's face hardened. "That's the backup." The car screeched to a halt. The window rolled down. It wasn't the police. It was the same men from the restaurant. "Run," Liam said. But this time Adrian grabbed her hand. "No, we fight." The black sedan didn't just stop. It prowled forward, the tires crunching over the broken glass and debris of the alleyway. The passenger window rolled down, revealing the muzzle of a submachine gun. A Heckler and Coke MP5. "Get down!" Adrian roared, trying to shove Liam behind a concrete pillar. But Liam didn't hide. She moved. She stepped away from the wall, raising the stolen Glock 19 with a terrifying calmness. The headlights blinded her, but she didn't blink. She aimed not at the gunman, but at the driver. Crack, crack. The windshield spiderwebbed instantly. The sedan swerved violently to the left as the driver slumped over the wheel, dead weight pulling the car off course. The vehicle slammed into a dumpster with a bone-jarring metallic crunch, the airbag deploying with a cloud of white dust. The gunman in the passenger seat was thrown forward, his head cracking against the dashboard. "Move!" Liam yelled, grabbing Adrian's sleeve. "Are we running?" Adrian asked, looking at the smoking wreck. "No," Liam said, sprinting towards the crashed car. "We're driving." She wrenched the driver's side door open. The dead man tumbled out onto the wet asphalt. He was heavy, dressed in tactical gear. Liam didn't flinch as she shoved his body aside with her foot and jumped into the driver's seat. "Get in!" she screamed at Adrian. Adrian hesitated for a fraction of a second, stunned by the sheer ruthlessness of the woman in the stained apron, before diving into the passenger seat. He kicked the groggy gunman who was trying to raise his MP5, sending the weapon clattering out the open door. "Door!" Liam commanded. Adrian slammed it shut just as Liam threw the car into reverse. The tires squealed, smoking against the wet pavement as she whipped the heavy sedan around in a perfect J-turn. "Where did you learn to drive like this?" Adrian gripped the dashboard, his knuckles white. "Waitress school?" "Something like that." Liam grit her teeth, shifting gears. The engine roared, a modified V8. This wasn't a standard sedan. It was a pursuit vehicle. "Hold on. We're going to have company." She punched the gas, and the car shot out of the alley onto 5th Avenue. Liam was right. As soon as they hit the main road, blue and red lights flickered in the rear-view mirror. But it wasn't the police. It was a black SUV, identical to the ones Adrian used. But these were aggressive. They were ramming their way through traffic. "Volkov's men," Adrian growled, looking back. They must have been waiting on the perimeter. They knew exactly when to strike. "You have a leak," Liam said, weaving through the late-night Seattle traffic at 80 miles an hour. She clipped the side mirror of a parked taxi, but didn't slow down. "A big one." "I know," Adrian said darkly. He reached into the glove compartment of the stolen car. "Let's see what these amateurs brought to the party." He pulled out a spare magazine for a Sig Sauer and a flashbang grenade. Jackpot. The SUV behind them surged forward, trying to perform a pit maneuver to spin them out. Liam watched them in the mirror, her eyes narrowing. "They're going to ram us," Adrian warned. "Let them try," Liam whispered. Just as the SUV's bumper touched their rear fender, Liam slammed on the brakes. It was a suicidal move. The SUV, traveling at high speed, couldn't react in time. It slammed into the back of their sedan, but Liam anticipated the impact. As soon as she felt the jolt, she floored the accelerator again. The sudden change in momentum caused the SUV driver to overcorrect. The massive vehicle fish-tailed, lost traction on the rain-slicked road, and spun violently across 3 lanes of traffic, crashing through a bus stop shelter. Liam didn't look back. She took a hard right onto a narrow side street, killing the headlights to disappear into the gloom. She drove for another 20 minutes, taking a convoluted route designed to shake any tail, looping through parking garages, doubling back on one-way streets, and finally heading towards the industrial district of Sodo. The adrenaline in the car was thick enough to taste. Adrian watched her profile in the dim light of the dashboard. She was beautiful, yes. High cheekbones, a sharp jawline, messy hair falling out of her bun. But it was her focus that captivated him. She was a machine. "Pull over here," Adrian said, pointing to a secluded warehouse lot. "I have a safe house nearby." "No," Liam said, her voice shaking slightly now that the immediate danger was over. No safe houses. If you have a leak, your safe houses are compromised. They'll be waiting for you. Adrian paused. She was right. If they knew his schedule at the restaurant, they knew his real estate portfolio. Then where are we going? Liam turned the car down a dead-end street lined with old brick buildings and rusted fire escapes. She pulled up to a heavy steel door covered in graffiti. "My place," she said, killing the engine. "It's the last place on earth anyone would look for Adrian Cross." She turned to look at him. Her eyes were dark, exhausted, and guarded. "But if you don't like it, you can walk." Adrian looked at the grim surroundings, then back at the woman who had just saved his life twice in under an hour. A slow smile spread across his face. "Lead the way, Liam." Liam's apartment was a stark contrast to the luxury Adrian was accustomed to. It was a studio loft in a converted cannery building. The floors were exposed concrete, the walls were brick, and the furniture was sparse: a mattress on the floor, a single armchair, and a table covered in mechanical parts. There were no pictures, no personal knickknacks. It looked less like a home, and more like a temporary staging ground. Adrian walked in, his expensive Italian leather shoes clicking on the concrete. He winced, clutching his side. He hadn't been shot, but the impact of the table flip and the car crash had bruised ribs. "Sit," Liam pointed to the armchair. She locked the door, engaging 3 heavy-duty deadbolts that looked like they belonged on a bank vault. She went to a small kitchenette and pulled out a first aid kit. It wasn't a drugstore box. It was a military-grade trauma kit. Tourniquets, coagulant gauze, suture kits. Adrian watched her as she knelt beside him. Nice apartment. Very minimalist. "Do you entertain often?" "Shut up," Liam said. But there was no heat in it. She unbuttoned his ruined suit jacket and shirt to check his ribs. Her fingers were cool against his skin. "Just bruising," she muttered. "You'll live." She stood up and walked to the sink to wash the gunpowder residue off her hands. Adrian watched the water turn grey. "So," Adrian said, his voice dropping an octave, losing the playful edge, "are you going to tell me who you are? Or do I have to have my security team run your fingerprints once I get a signal?" Liam froze. She turned off the tap and leaned against the counter, facing him. The distance between them felt charged. "My name is Liam," she said. "Liam who?" "Just Liam." Adrian stood up, ignoring the pain in his ribs. He stalked toward her, closing the gap. He was a large man, imposing, used to intimidation. But Liam didn't flinch. She held his gaze, her chin tilted up defiantly. "A waitress who handles a Glock 19 like a Navy SEAL," Adrian listed, ticking off points on his fingers. "Who clears a stovepipe jam in under a second. Who knows how to execute a J-turn and pit maneuver escape. And who keeps a trauma kit in her kitchen next to the cereal." He stopped inches from her. He trapped her against the counter, placing his hands on either side of her hips. He wasn't hurting her, but he was boxing her in. "Who sent you, Liam?" he whispered, his face close enough that she could feel the warmth of his breath. "Are you a plant? Did the Volkovs send you to get close to me? A honey trap?" Liam let out a sharp, bitter laugh. "If I were working for Volkov, you'd be dead in that alley. I had a gun. You had a kitchen knife. Use your head, Cross." "Then who?" Adrian demanded, his eyes searching hers, looking for a lie. "You're too good to be a nobody." Liam looked away, staring at a crack in the brick wall. "My father was in the business." "The Mafia?" "No," Liam said softly. "Private contracting. High-risk security." He worked for Blackwater, then went independent. He taught me how to shoot before I could ride a bike. He taught me how to drive before I could reach the pedals. He said the world was a dangerous place and I needed to be ready. "Where is he now?" Liam's expression hardened. A flash of pain crossed her eyes, raw and deep. "Dead. 2 years ago, a job went wrong in Beirut, or that's what they told me." Adrian studied her. He was a master at reading people, at sniffing out deception. She was telling the truth. He could see the grief, the unresolved anger. She was a soldier without a war, a protector without a principle. So you're hiding, Adrian deduced. From his enemies? Something like that. Liam pushed past him, needing space. I wanted a quiet life. I wanted to pour coffee and worry about rent, not bullet trajectories. But then you walked in. She went to the table and picked up the gun she had stolen from the assassin. She ejected the magazine and started stripping the weapon down, her movements mechanical and soothing. You saved me, Adrian said, turning to watch her. Why? Liam looked at the gun parts. Because I saw the look in that assassin's eyes. I've seen it before, and I hate bullies. Adrian chuckled, a dark, rich sound. I've been called many things. A bully is a new one. Most people call me a monster. You probably are, Liam said, reassembling the slide with a sharp clack. But tonight, you were the victim, and I don't let victims die on my watch. She looked up at him. You said there's a leak. Who knew you were at the Gilded Lily tonight? Adrian's face went cold. The playfulness vanished. Only my inner circle, my consigliere, Silas, my head of security, Damon, and my brother, Julian. Julian, Liam tested the name. The one who runs your shipping operations? Yes. How do you know that? I read the papers, Liam lied. She knew it because her father had files on all the major players. If they knew you were there, one of them sold you out. Adrian pulled a burner phone from his pocket. I need to make a call. I have a secondary team. Ghosts. Men who aren't on the official payroll. I need to know who ordered the hit. Wait, Liam said, walking over to him. She reached into a pocket and pulled out a crumpled piece of paper she had swiped from the dead driver's vest. Before you call anyone, look at this. Adrian took the paper. It was a printout of a digital map, a route. But it wasn't a route to the restaurant. It was a route to a warehouse on the docks. This is the route for my shipment tonight, Adrian realized, his eyes widening. The one that was light. They didn't just want to kill you, Liam said, her voice dropping to a whisper. They wanted to distract you while they hit your supply chain. This is a coup, Adrian. Someone is taking your throne. Adrian crumbled the paper in his fist. His veins bulged in his forearm. The betrayal was stinging, but the rage was fueling him. Silas, he hissed. He was the one who organized the logistics for the shipment. He told me to go to the restaurant to relax, because I looked stressed. Silas, Liam nodded. The one with the glasses? Always looks like he's smelling something bad. That's him. Adrian looked at Liam. The dynamic had shifted. She wasn't just a savior anymore. She was an asset, a partner. And looking at her now, with grease on her cheek and a gun in her hand, he felt a pull of attraction so strong it terrified him. I need to go to the docks, Adrian said. I need to intercept that shipment and catch Silas in the act. If I show up alive, his whole plan falls apart. You can't go alone, Liam said. You have no backup. Your regular men are likely compromised or dead. I don't have a choice. Yes, you do, Liam sighed, picking up the Glock and tucking it into the back of her jeans. She grabbed a leather jacket from the chair and threw it on. You? Adrian raised an eyebrow. You want to go to war with the Seattle Mafia? You just said you wanted a quiet life. Liam walked to the door and unlocked the deadbolts. She looked back at him, a dangerous smirk playing on her lips. I did, she said, but you wrecked my restaurant, and honestly, I was getting bored of pouring water. She opened the door. Let's go kill a traitor, Mr. Cross. Adrian watched her walk out. He realized right then that he was in trouble. Not from the assassins or Silas or the Volkovs. He was in trouble because he was falling for the waitress who held a gun better than she held a tray. The port of Seattle was a sprawling labyrinth of steel containers, towering cranes, and deep shadows, all slick with the relentless downpour. It was a city within a city, governed by its own laws, and tonight it was a war zone. Liam parked the stolen sedan behind a rusted chain-link fence, half a mile from Pier 54. She killed the lights instantly. The rain drummed rhythmically against the roof, a stark contrast to the silence inside the car. "Warehouse 4, Adrian said, peering through the windshield. His voice was tight, controlled rage bubbling just beneath the surface. "That's where the shipment is logging in. If Silas is selling it off, he'll be there." Liam reached into the back seat and grabbed a tire iron. It wasn't much, but it was a secondary weapon. She checked the Glock one last time. 7 rounds left. "We can't go in guns blazing, Adrian. This has to be surgical." "I don't do surgical," Adrian growled, checking his own stolen weapon, a snub-nosed revolver he'd taken from the glove box of the pursuit car. "I do loud." "Loud gets you killed," Liam countered, turning to face him. The dim street lamp outside cast shadows across her face, highlighting the fierce determination in her eyes. "You're the king of Seattle, right? Act like a general, not a thug. We infiltrate, we assess, we strike when we have the advantage." Adrian stared at her. In the chaos of the night, he hadn't fully appreciated just how commanding she was. She wasn't asking for permission. She was giving orders. And for the first time in his life, Adrian Cross was inclined to listen. "Fine," he conceded, a smirk touching his lips. "Lead the way, General." They moved through the shadows of the shipping containers like ghosts. Liam took point, moving with a fluid, practiced grace that betrayed years of high-level training. She signaled with hand gestures, "Stop, clear, move up," that Adrian instinctively understood. They reached the perimeter of Warehouse 4. 2 guards were posted at the main rolling door, smoking cigarettes under the overhang to stay dry. They were armed with assault rifles, slung lazily over their shoulders. "Volkov's men," Adrian whispered, recognizing the tattoos on their necks. "Russians? Silas really did sell me out to the competition." "2 targets," Liam whispered back. "I can take the left. Can you get the right? Without a gun. Improvise." Liam moved first. She picked up a loose bolt from the ground and tossed it against a metal dumpster 20 feet away. Clang! Both guards snapped their heads towards the noise. "What was that?" one muttered in Russian. "Probably a rat," the other replied. "Big rat," the first one said, stepping away from the door to investigate. As soon as they separated, Liam moved. She surged from the darkness, closing the distance to the remaining guard in 3 silent strides. Before he could raise his rifle, she pistol-whipped him across the temple. He folded without a sound. Simultaneously, Adrian lunged at the second guard. He didn't have Liam's finesse, but he had raw power. He grabbed the man by the back of his tactical vest and slammed him face first into the side of the shipping container. The hollow thud was sickening. Adrian dragged the unconscious man into the shadows and stripped him of his rifle, an AK-74U. He checked the magazine. "Full clip. Now we're talking." "Don't get cocky," Liam hissed. Dragging the other body out of sight, they slipped inside the warehouse through a side service door. The interior was cavernous, lit by buzzing sodium lights that cast a sickly yellow glow over everything. In the center of the floor, surrounded by walls of stacked crates, was a meeting. Silas was there. Adrian felt his blood boil. Silas had been his father's right hand, and then his. He was a man Adrian had trusted with his life, his money, and his secrets. And there he was, standing in a tailored raincoat, shaking hands with Viktor Volkov, the brutal patriarch of the Russian syndicate. "The routes are all verified," Silas was saying, his voice carrying in the echoing space. "Customs schedules, patrol shifts, and the codes to Cross's private vaults. It's all on this drive." He held up a silver flash drive. Viktor Volkov laughed, a deep, gravelly sound. "And Cross? Is he dead?" "My men at the restaurant confirmed the hit," Silas lied smoothly. "He's gone. Seattle is ours to carve up, Victor." Adrian stepped out from behind the stack of crates. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "You always were a terrible liar, Silas." The silence that followed was absolute. Silas spun around, his face draining of color. Viktor Volkov's eyes widened, and his hand went to his belt. "Adrian," Silas stammered, looking like he was seeing a ghost. "But the report—" "Premature," Adrian said, walking into the light, the AK-74 you held casually at his hip. "You sold my city for a flash drive, Silas. I thought you had more ambition." "Kill him!" Volkov roared. The warehouse erupted. Volkov's men, 6 of them scattered around the perimeter, opened fire. Bullets sparked off the concrete floor and pinged against the metal crates. Adrian dove to the right, rolling behind a forklift. He returned fire, the AK barking loudly, taking down a gunman on the catwalk above. Liam was already moving. She didn't dive. She climbed. She scrambled up a stack of pallets, gaining the high ground. From her perch, she had a clear line of sight on Volkov's bodyguards. She took a breath. Center mass. Squeeze. She dropped 2 men in rapid succession. The element of surprise was their only armor. "Silas is running!" Liam yelled, spotting the traitor sprinting toward the rear office. "Cover me!" Adrian shouted. He broke cover, sprinting across the open floor towards the office stairs. Bullets chewed up the ground at his heels. Liam provided suppressive fire, her aim deadly accurate, forcing the remaining Russians to keep their heads down. One of the Russians popped up with a shotgun, aiming for Adrian's exposed back. Liam didn't have a clear shot at the man, only at a heavy chain suspending a crate of engine parts above him. She shifted her aim and fired at the winch release mechanism. The chain snapped. The crate plummeted. The Russian looked up just in time to scream before 2 tons of steel crushed him. "Nice shot," Adrian yelled, kicking open the door to the office stairwell. But as Liam turned to follow, a bullet grazed her arm. She hissed in pain, the hot sting causing her to nearly drop her weapon. She stumbled, falling from the pallets to the concrete floor, rolling to absorb the impact. "Liam!" Adrian roared, stopping on the stairs. "Go!" She screamed, clutching her bleeding bicep. "Get Silas! I can hold them off!" Adrian looked at her, bleeding, fierce, and utterly magnificent, and made a choice. He turned and stormed up the stairs. He would kill Silas, and then he would burn this whole world down for her. The office overlooked the warehouse floor through a wall of grime-streaked glass. Silas was frantically trying to unlock the back exit door, fumbling with his keys, his composure shattered. The door behind him exploded inward. Silas spun around, pressing his back against the exit door, dropping the keys. Adrian Cross stood in the broken frame, the assault rifle gone, his chest heaving. He looked like a demon rising from the pit, suit torn, covered in dust and blood, eyes burning with a cold blue fire. "End of the line, Silas," Adrian said, his voice terrifyingly calm. "Adrian, please." Silas held up his hands, the flash drive trembling in his grip. It wasn't personal, it was business. You were running the family into the ground. You were trying to go legitimate. The men were unhappy. "The men were rich," Adrian corrected, stepping closer. "You were the one who was unhappy. You missed the old days. The blood. The chaos. The Volkovs offered me protection," Silas pleaded. "We can make a deal. Take the drive. I'll leave the country. You'll never see me again." Adrian stopped 3 feet from him. He looked at the man who had taught him how to tie a tie, how to pour scotch, how to run an empire. "You tried to kill me in a restaurant full of civilians," Adrian said softly. "You put a hit out on me while I was eating dinner, and you dragged an innocent woman into it." "The waitress," Silas sneered, a flash of his old arrogance returning. "She's nobody, Adrian. Collateral damage. Why do you care?" "Because she has more honor in her little finger than you have in your entire body." Silas's eyes darted to the desk. There was a letter opener there, a desperate, stupid move. He lunged. Adrian didn't even flinch. He caught Silas's wrist mid-air, twisting it until the bone snapped with a wet crack. Silas screamed, dropping the blade. Adrian slammed him against the glass wall, the impact spiderwebbing the window. He held Silas by the throat, lifting his feet off the ground. "Who else?" Adrian demanded. "Volkov is the muscle, you're the rat. But who bankrolled this? Volkov doesn't have the capital to buy my shipping lanes." Silas gasped for air, his face turning purple. A malicious grin twisted his lips. You think you know everything," Silas wheezed. "You don't know who she is." Adrian froze. "What?" "The girl," Silas choked out. "Liam, that's not her name." "Is it?" Adrian tightened his grip. "What are you talking about?" "Her father," Silas rasped. "Jack Reynolds, the mercenary. You remember him? Your father hired him 10 years ago." The memory hit Adrian like a physical blow. Jack Reynolds, the man his father had hired to clean up a mess in Mexico. The man his father had betrayed and left to die to cover their tracks. "She's not here to save you," Silas laughed, a gurgling, hideous sound. "She's here to finish the job. Her father couldn't." Adrian's mind reeled. Liam, a plant? No, it didn't make sense. She saved him. Twice. "You're lying," Adrian growled. "Ask her," Silas whispered. "Ask her about the Beirut job." Bang! The glass behind Silas shattered inward. A single bullet hole appeared in the center of Silas's forehead. His eyes went wide, the light extinguishing instantly. He slumped in Adrian's grip, dead before he hit the floor. Adrian spun around, dropping the body. Standing in the doorway was Liam. She was clutching her bleeding arm, her face pale, the Glock smoking in her hand. She had taken the shot from across the room, threading the needle past Adrian to kill Silas. "He talked too much," Liam said, her voice trembling slightly. Adrian looked at the dead body of his oldest friend, then at the woman who had just saved him for the 3rd time. But the air in the room had changed. The trust that had been building was now fractured by Silas's dying words. "Did you hear him?" Adrian asked, his voice low. Liam lowered the gun. She didn't look at him. She looked at the floor. "I heard." "Is it true?" Adrian stepped over Silas's body, walking toward her. "Is your name Reynolds?" Liam looked up. Her eyes were filled with tears, but her jaw was set. "Yes." "Did you know who I was when I walked into the restaurant?" "Yes." Adrian felt a cold knot form in his stomach. "Did you plan this? The ambush? The rescue? Was it all a game to get close to me?" "No!" Liam stepped forward, pain and desperation in her voice. "I didn't know about the hit tonight. That was real. I've been tracking you for 6 months, Adrian. I wanted to look you in the eye. I wanted to know if you were the monster your father was." "And?" Adrian challenged her. "Am I?" "I don't know yet," Liam whispered, "but when that gunman pointed his weapon at you, I didn't see a monster. I saw a man who was alone. Just like me." Sirens began to wail in the distance. The police, the Port Authority, the gunfire had drawn the heat. "We have to go," Liam said, switching back to soldier mode. "The cops will lock this place down in 3 minutes." Adrian stood there, torn. He should kill her. She was the daughter of an enemy. She had lied to him. She was a threat. But then he looked at the blood soaking her sleeve. Blood she had shed for him. He made his decision. "The back exit," Adrian said, walking past her. "My boat is docked at Pier 56. Can you drive a boat?" Liam let out a breath she had been holding. "I can drive anything." "Good." Adrian grabbed her good hand, lacing his fingers through hers. The connection was electric, dangerous and undeniable. "Because we're not done yet. Volkov is still out there, and we need to have a very long conversation about your father." They ran out the back door into the rain, leaving the bodies and the betrayal behind them. They were no longer just a waitress and a customer. They were partners, bound by blood and secrets, running headfirst into a war that was just beginning. The speedboat cut through the black waters of Elliott Bay, the engine's roar drowning out the distant sirens. Adrian stood at the helm, his face illuminated by the dashboard lights, grim and focused. Liam sat near the stern, wrapping a bandage around her grazed arm, with her teeth and one hand. She watched him. He wasn't looking at her, but she could feel his awareness of her, heavy and constant. "We can't go to my penthouse," Adrian shouted over the wind. "Volkov will have it staked out. We're going to the old foundry. It's off the books." Liam finished the knot and walked up to him, swaying with the rhythm of the boat. "Volkov isn't going to stop, Adrian. He thinks you're dead. But once Silas's body is found, he'll know the coup failed. He'll burn the city down to find you." "Let him try," Adrian said, his knuckles white on the wheel. "I'll kill him before he gets the chance." "With what army?" Liam challenged. "It's just us. 2 people against a syndicate." Adrian cut the engine, letting the boat drift into the dark recess of a derelict pier. The silence was sudden and deafening. He turned to face her, the tension between them finally snapping. "Why didn't you shoot me?" he asked, his voice rough. "In the warehouse. You had the gun. You had the angle. You could have killed me and Silas and finished your father's vendetta." Liam looked down at her hands, hands that were stained with grease and dried blood. "My father was a mercenary, Adrian. But he had a code. He didn't kill men who looked him in the eye and fought for their people. You went back for me, at the restaurant and at the docks. Your father, he left mine to die in a ditch in Beirut. You didn't leave me." She looked up, her eyes fierce. "I don't punish sons for the sins of their fathers, unless they prove they're the same." Adrian stepped closer, the space between them charging with electricity. He reached out, his thumb tracing the line of her jaw. "And? Am I the same?" "No," Liam whispered. "You're worse. My father never would have let a waitress drive his getaway car." A small, genuine smile touched Adrian's lips. It transformed his face, stripping away the ruthless Don and revealing the man beneath. He leaned down, his forehead resting against hers. "We're not hiding," Adrian decided, his voice low and dangerous. "Volkov is celebrating tonight. He's at the Velvet Room. He thinks he's the new king of Seattle." "So?" Liam breathed. "So." Adrian pulled back, pulling a tarp off a crate in the back of the boat. Underneath was a cache of weapons, emergency supplies he kept for doomsday scenarios. "We're going to crash the party. Underscore, 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 underscore." The Velvet Room was the crown jewel of the Russian district. It was loud, bathed in red neon, and filled with smoke and expensive vodka. Viktor Volkov sat in the VIP booth overlooking the dance floor, a cigar in one hand and a glass of champagne in the other. "To the new era!" Volkov shouted, raising his glass. His lieutenants cheered, laughing, drunk on power and liquor. The music was thumping, a heavy bass that rattled the ribs. No one heard the front bouncers drop outside. No one noticed the 2 figures walking through the front door until the music suddenly cut out. The silence rippled through the club. Adrian Cross stood in the center of the dance floor. He had cleaned up. He wore a fresh black shirt from the boat's supplies, sleeves rolled up to reveal his forearms. He looked calm, terrifyingly calm. And beside him stood Liam. She wore her torn jeans and the leather jacket, her hair loose and wild. She didn't look like a waitress. She looked like a Valkyrie. "Victor!" Adrian called out, his voice projecting easily to the VIP balcony. "You're sitting in my chair." Volkov froze. The cigar fell from his mouth. "Cross? You're a ghost!" "I'm worse," Adrian said. "I'm the landlord, and you're getting evicted." Volkov's face twisted into a snarl. He snapped his fingers. "Kill them! Kill them both!" The balcony erupted with movement. Volkov's men drew their weapons. "Now!" Adrian yelled. Liam moved. She didn't run for cover. She ran for the offensive. She slid across the polished dance floor, flipping a heavy oak table onto its side to create a barricade just as the first hail of bullets chewed up the wood. Adrian vaulted over the bar, dual-wielding 2 suppressed pistols. He popped up, firing with ruthless precision. 1, 2, 3. 3 gunmen on the balcony dropped. Liam pulled the submachine gun, an MP5, from under her jacket. She propped it on the table and unleashed a controlled burst of fire, pinning the guards on the staircase. "Flank them!" Volkov screamed, cowering behind his bodyguards. 3 men rushed the stairs, trying to get to the dance floor. Liam saw them. She didn't hesitate. She tossed a flashbang grenade, one of the last gifts from the pursuit car, high into the air. Bang! The blinding white light seared the retinas of everyone facing the stairs. The men screamed, clutching their eyes. Adrian surged from behind the bar. He moved like water, fluid and deadly. He took the stairs 2 at a time, stepping over the blinded men, disarming them with brutal efficiency. He reached the VIP section. Volkov was trying to scramble out the back exit, pushing his own men out of the way. He was a coward, masked as a king. "Victor!" Adrian roared. Volkov spun around, pulling a gold-plated Desert Eagle from his waistband. He raised it, aiming at Adrian's chest. Crack! A single shot rang out. But Adrian hadn't fired. Volkov stared blankly, a small red hole appearing in his right shoulder. He dropped the gun, howling in pain. Adrian looked down. Liam was standing on the bar counter below, the Glock 19 extended, smoke curling from the barrel. She had taken the shot from 50 feet away, through the chaos, to save him. She lowered the gun and gave him a nod. "Your turn." Adrian walked up to Volkov, who was clutching his bleeding shoulder, scrambling backward on the plush carpet. "Please!" Volkov gasped. "I can pay you. I have millions. I'll leave Seattle. I swear." Adrian kicked the gold gun away. He grabbed Volkov by the lapels of his suit and hauled him to the balcony railing. Below, the club-goers who hadn't fled were watching in terrified awe. "You tried to kill me," Adrian said, his voice cold as ice. "I can forgive that. It's business." He leaned in closer. "But you tried to kill the woman who saved my life. And that's personal." "Who is she?" Volkov wept. "Who is she?" Adrian looked down at Liam. She was reloading her magazine, calm amidst the carnage, the Queen of Spades standing in the wreckage of the House of Cards. "She's the partner you never saw coming," Adrian said. He threw Volkov over the railing. The Russian boss crashed onto the DJ booth below in a shower of sparks and broken equipment. The silence that followed was absolute. Adrian stood on the balcony, looking down at his city. His enemies were dead. His traitor was gone. He was the king again. But as he walked down the stairs, ignoring the terrified stares of the remaining staff, he didn't walk towards the exit. He walked toward Liam. She holstered her gun and wiped a smudge of gunpowder from her cheek. She looked exhausted, battered, and beautiful. "Is it done?" she asked softly. Adrian stopped in front of her. He reached out, taking her hand, the one with the callus on the trigger finger, the one that had saved him 3 times in one night. "The war is done," Adrian said, "but we have a lot of work to do." "We?" Liam raised an eyebrow. "I thought I was just a waitress." "You were never just a waitress, Liam Reynolds," Adrian said, "and I'm not looking for a servant. I'm looking for an equal." He pulled her close, wrapping his arm around her waist. The adrenaline of the fight was fading, replaced by a heat that was far more dangerous. "Stay," he whispered against her ear. "Run this city with me, not as a shadow, but by my side." Liam looked up at him. She thought about her father. She thought about the years of running, of hiding, of being invisible. She looked at the man who had fought for her, who had treated her not as a damsel, but as a warrior. She smiled, and for the first time in years it reached her eyes. "Okay," she said, "but I'm picking the restaurant next time, and no Italian." Adrian laughed, and he kissed her. It was a kiss that tasted of victory, of danger, and of a future that was going to be anything but quiet. The king had found his queen, and Seattle would never be the same. And just like that, the waitress who was invisible to the world became the only woman the most powerful man in the city could see. Liam didn't just save a mafia boss. She saved herself from a life of running. It turns out, sometimes, the person pouring your water is the most dangerous person in the room. What do you think? If you were Liam, would you have forgiven Adrian for his father's crimes, Or would you have taken your revenge and walked away? It's a tough choice between the past and the future. Let me know what you would have done in the comments below. I read every single one. If you enjoyed this story of action, betrayal, and romance, please smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss a new story. We upload brand new drama every single day. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.